Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine and my presentation is about positive and negative impacts of World War II. Positive impacts of World War II on Canadians and their governments. Women started working and became more independent. The economy increased and the standard of living was raised. The unemployment rate became very low in Canada after World War II. The government increased minimum wages after World War II. The Canadian production of military supplies became high as it is essential for winning the war. The government created better working conditions for the public. Negative impacts of World War II on Canadians and their governments. Men were forced to go to war. The government wants total manpower in war. Women's jobs were temporary. Once men came back, they sent women back to their homes. People lost their loved ones. Young men were called to serve in the war in 1941. Government used misleading nature to convince women to help in factories. Positive impact of World War II on 21st century global issues and globalization. World trade had increased quickly after World War II. Globalization promotes peace in the society exactly after World War II. World War II created connections and support between the countries through globalization. The Second World War triggered a series of quick and far reaching social changes. Some negative impacts are World War II was the deadliest military conflict in history. In terms of total death, with some 75 million people casualties, including military and civilians, are around 3% of the world's population at the time. Many civilians died because of deliberate genocide, massacres, mass bombings, diseases, and starvation. Positive impacts of World War II on Great Transformation and World War One. World War II led to development of the market during Great Transformation. The Great Transformation led to the social and political changes in England during the rise of market economy. The second volume, Trade and Markets in the Early Empire, concentrated on non-market forms of society during Great Transformation. And its negative impacts are the Second World War triggered a damaging series of rapid and far-reaching social changes in Newfoundland and Labrador. There were crises and stock market crashes during the Great Transformation. World War One created several consequences which led to Second World War. Positive impacts of World War II on interwar decades. The interwar period lasted when World War II started. It was a period of economic prosperity and growth for the middle class in North America, Europe, Asia, and many other parts of the world. During the interwar period, peace movements were marked of the coexistence of radical pacifist positions with the moderate orientations of traditional peace organizations. And its negative impacts are high unemployment in industrial countries, bank failure and collapse of credit, the collapse of prices in world trade. The interwar period is known as Age of Anxiety. Positive impacts of World War II. Canada's shipbuilding industry produced 410 merchant vessels and 206 corvettes and frigates, mineweavers, landing crafts, patrol boats, and more patrol boats for war. Advancements were made in healthcare, education, transportation, and communication. There were jobs for all who wanted them. Factories were created to make war supplies, setting a new standard of industrial and manufacturing sectors in Canada. Social rights increased as more people worked. Women began to work in factories, establishing more women rights. Negative impacts of World War II. There were more than 39 million deaths in Europe during World War II. Many destructions of home and physical capital occurred during ground battle and bombing. President asked to break his promise he made during election that were king or chaos. Black men were discriminated. World War II affected all social classes across Europe. Positive impacts of World War II on Canada in post-war era. Internationally, Canada was a part of a project to rebuild the European economy and market for Canadian exports while keeping communication at bay. The post-World War II economy was built on renewed public sector investments. Much of the growth in domestic demand came to suburban development. And its negative impacts are in the post-war years, couples that could not afford families during the Great Depression made up for the lost times. Millions of veterans returned home and were forced to restore to the society. Oil displaced coal in many applications, particularly in locomotives and ships. The next slide will be about spiral diagram. This is my spiral diagram. It shows every detail that I put in my presentation and connects everything together to let everyone know that how my topic connects with each and every lesson we learn throughout this quarter. This is my timeline. These are my resources. Thanks for watching.